Welcome to Three Count Commentaries. So I am going to discuss the full draft. I waited until after the supplemental draft on Raw Talk. So it should be known, I believe, Brock Lesnar and Bill Goldberg are free agents, technically. And Bayley and Asuka were both injured, so they were not in the draft class. So we're going to let's go through Raw first. We're going through all of Raw's picks. And we're going to go through some of SmackDown's picks. I got the entire list here. I'm going to try not to go over anything that took place the previous week. All right, so Raw picked Big E, Bianca Belair, RK Bro, Edge, Rhea Ripley and Nikki Ash, Keith Lee, Rey and Dominic Mysterio, Austin Theory, Akira Tozawa, Alpha Academy, Apollo and Commander Aziz, Doudrop, Drake Maverick, John Morrison, Nia Jax, Reggie, R-Truth, T-Bar, Zelina Vega, Becky Lynch, Bobby Lashley, Seth Rollins, Damian Priest, AJ Styles and Omos, Kevin Owens, The Street Profits, Finn Balor, Karrion Kross, Alexa Bliss, Carmella, Gable Steveson, Liv Morgan, Dana Brooke, Dolph Ziggler, Robert Roode, Jackson Riker, Veer, Mia Yim, Tamina Snuka, Tegan Knox, Shelton Benjamin, Cedric Alexander, and The Miz. All right, let's talk about Gabe Stevenson first. I know the first thing is he is obviously going to get pulled straight to Raw, which is what they did with Mark Henry. They going to give him some kind of private trainings, and then they're going to pull him on up to Raw. The Ronda Rousey treatment. They must really see something in the kid, or they just think that he has something, with his name value and everything. And look, I'm not one of these people that I'm always push him in the deep end. He's not going to debut anytime soon. It's not like he's going to be on TV next week. I don't see that happening. I think he's going to finish up his collegiate work. He may make an appearance later in the year. Well, it's already October, so maybe Royal Rumble around that time, December. He still has some eligibility for college, so he's going to be probably doing that. I think they just did it just to name drop him and get his name trending, which was a mistake. Because it gave a lot of the Sharks an opportunity to do things that really upset me, because to me, well, for people who don't know, Gable Steveson, was accused of rape in 2019, and there was no evidence. The case was dropped, and people are continuing to talk about it. And it was literally the first thing I saw. I was so bored with Raw that occasionally, I was reading a book, so I wasn't paying much attention. But then when I got tired of reading the book, I went to Twitter. It was the first thing I saw when it came to Gable Steveson being drafted to Raw. Oh, he was accused of rape and he got away with it because the victim was too drunk to not consent or something like that. And I just sat there and was like, and it was a Fightful account. It was one of these guys who works for Fightful. And apparently, just getting accused of something means that you did it. When you look it up, you see that the district attorney had to admit that there was no evidence, there wasn't enough evidence. And you ask what the evidence was, there was none. Then they will throw in this whole thing about the victim supposedly being too drunk to not consent, or something to that effect. When you need the 911 call, I didn't see anything mentioned about alcohol. I don't know how alcohol related to the case. I don't know how any of that stuff. I don't know the deep details of it because there was no trial. Therefore, the guys were arrested. They were accused of sexual assault. Then, a couple of months later, it was dropped due to lack of evidence. But that was, of course, that it's never over. So there's going to be, if you didn't see it before, you're going to see it now. With a lot of people jumping all over this kid. It's the usual. But all I want to say is the district attorney said out of his own mouth There was not enough evidence. There was insufficient evidence to convict him or the other young man who was also accused. And no matter what excuses he tried to make about, oh, if we could have changed this law, man, if we could have did this, like, man, you ain't got no evidence, right? And ultimately, that's it. As far as I'm concerned, that's it. This idea that he beat the case on a technicality is like, people say that stuff all the time. It's a district attorney. He's going to say whatever it takes to make it seem like he did his job. But the bottom line is they did an investigation. It came up donuts. It's over. But we're dealing with a certain class of individual here who every time the kid's name is going to get brought up, we did this with Matthew Riddle, right? We did the same thing all over again. And I don't want to do that again. I just want the kid to be able to live his life, and it's a shame that he's still a very young man. I think he's like 21 or something like that. And the moment he tries, he makes one step forward, there's always going to be people there trying to pull him back. But I'm spending too much time on this. The bottom line is, I think he's going to end up, I think he's going to be like another Mark Henry. Mark Henry was a 10-year project. Mark Henry was signed, and there was no immediate benefit to Mark Henry being on the roster. It took some time, and it's going to take some time for Gable Steveson, because just because he's an amateur wrestler, they tend to have pretty good track records, amateur wrestlers. But we have to make sure that the charisma is there, that the character is there, and that the presentation is going to be okay. That's all up to WWE right there. So until we actually see him work, I don't see the benefit of this, or tearing him down. Seth Rollins was an obvious choice because Becky Lynch was there. Lashley, the Hurt Business still being on Raw, okay. Damian Priest, okay. Kevin Owens, I needed Kevin Owens to jump ship. He has been absolutely miserable on SmackDown for the last several months. He hasn't been doing anything. I don't see the purpose of him on SmackDown anymore. I don't see how he even brings anything to SmackDown anymore. I really don't see him bringing anything to WWE. He seemed to have peaked right after he won the Universal title. I think he peaked, actually, quite honestly, with the Chris Jericho thing. I don't think he's done anything major since the Festival of Friendship, which was almost 4 years ago. So all of this teasing about leaving, I'm cool with that. I am number one cool with that. Do your thing, boy. Hey, go make that money, because it's out there waiting for you. You got your name on it. Finn Balor is jumping ship. Finn Balor has been completely and totally screwed over. They did the whole thing with the rope coming apart, and then they decided, you know what? We're not at all going to follow up on this story. There has been 2 shows to which they could have discussed what happened, the drama of what happened with the rope breaking, and nothing. Absolutely nothing. That is indicative of WWE storytelling. That is what pisses people off. When you have it's not even the details. How a guy who you bashed with a chair last year, you're tag team partners this year. Like, shouldn't you still be mad? Like, some people have those kind of problems. And those problems can exist depending on the level of things. Like, if Seth Rollins and Edge are tag team partners next year, I would expect somebody to have apologized or something to have happened in order to get us to that point. But most of the time in wrestling, you kind of turn a blind eye to those things. But something as ridiculous as the top rope coming apart, you can't ignore that. You can't skip over that. You can't just say it was divine intervention. It doesn't work that way. They screwed this guy. He hasn't even been on SmackDown that long. He's been on SmackDown, 3 months? And in 3 months, they effed him over 4 times. It was ridiculous. And he got he was not made whole. Let's put it that way. He was jobbed out by Cena, who stole his title shot. He lost because of the Usos. He didn't get any revenge on them. He lost to the Roman Reigns, didn't get any revenge on him. Then the top rope fell apart. He didn't try to find out who did it. And we're just moving on. We're going to move him to a whole new brand. It's that kind of stuff That is absolutely it's the worst kind of storytelling. And it goes to show that these people do not make plans. They just do shit. They just do stuff. It's embarrassing that they would do. This was a major event. It took place in front of people. This wasn't at a house show. You can't just do shit like the ring collapsing or the top rope magically falls apart after much bigger people than Finn Balor was standing on the top rope. It just happened to stay together. Then his 105-pound ass stood on it and it fell apart. You can't do that. I can't believe they fucked him over so horribly. It's embarrassing, man. Absolutely embarrassing. Street Profits, obvious when Bianca Belair got picked. I hear that they were supposed to break up the Street Profits. Like, man, I don't buy into that. What was supposed to happen, and I don't think things that didn't happen is news. Because anybody can make up shit that didn't happen. Oh yeah, we were supposed to get hit with a comet 2 weeks ago. It didn't happen though. It's like, how the hell do you know? Did you see the comet? Well, no, I heard about it. It's like, get the fuck out of here, man. Zelina Vega being on Raw is interesting. I thought they would have kept her with Garza and Carrillo, but no. Alexa Bliss going on Raw. Who cares? Carmella. I needed Carmella to leave. That's important. I thought that was interesting. She had done everything she can do on SmackDown, man. Carmella is... But unfortunately, they moved Liv Morgan. So we're in for more Carmella Liv Morgan content, which I'm not excited for. So another interesting thing is Veer. Veer is going to be on Raw alone because Jinder and Shanky was moved to SmackDown. So this is going to be a good opportunity. Veer is the guy that I saw something in him when he was wrestling in the 6-man tag matches. He has a very unique look. He speaks perfect English, so he might be an interesting character. I think they do need an Indian babyface, and I think that's really been the problem with WWE, is they want to break into that Indian market, but all the fucking Indians are heels. It's like, it's common sense. You need ethnic babyfaces. He needs to be a babyface. Somebody does. If this is the guy that the movie was based on, then he needs to be the babyface of his group. Well, he's not in the group anymore, but he needs to be the babyface. He needs to be like the guy who made it. You need to change his character up a little bit. Not too much. I like his look, but change his character up a little bit. But they do need babyfaces. It's always going to be a problem. When they tried to break into the Indian market with Jinder Mahal, Jinder Mahal's a goddamn heel. Go in there with a top baby face and see how that works. That's common sense. WWE does things so backwards. It just doesn't make any sense. Mia Yim, of course, obvious because of Keith Lee. But will she actually show her face on TV? Remember, she was drafted to SmackDown and never showed up. Never. She was sent to SmackDown, I believe, during the draft last year when they broke up Retribution. She never appeared. I don't think she made a single appearance on SmackDown. I'm surprised to even see her name here. Another forgotten storyline. Tegan Knox and Shotzi Blackheart, they've been broken up. They beat the tag team champions 500 times. They came out and challenged Nikki and Rhea, and nothing came of it. They shot them with foam missiles. Nothing came of it. Again, an angle that took place in front of people. I told you guys, I did that video on Eric Bischoff, and I talked about people doing things that are taped in advance, right? If they had taped this show in advance, if Raw was taped, let's say a month in advance, they would have been forced to act. They would have actually told this story. They would have finished some of these stories. It wouldn't be so many hanging plot threads. That's the most frustrating thing, is that the amount of effort and time, and then the amount of rematches. Like, we got all these fucking rematches when you could have just had Shotzi and Tegan wrestle the tag team champions and lose. And then we could have been like, oh, okay, well, they got their match, they lost, and we all can move on. But no, now we've broken them up. Now, of course, we do got 2 more weeks. The same thing with Finn Balor. We got 2 more weeks for them to actually explain what happened to Finn Balor, to actually give Shotzi and Tegan Knox their title shot. They got 2 weeks to do it. The question is, are they actually going to do it? And I can almost guarantee you the answer is going to be no. I would definitely be surprised. Definitely be surprised if at all it's even mentioned again. Tamina and Natalya were broken up. Praise God. Dana Brooke survived destruction tonight. Who cares? They brought the entire 24/7 crew to Raw. What an embarrassment. Apollo Crews and a Commander Aziz, they've already doing nothing with them. T-Bar, I've heard he's actually going to be changing the T-Bar character. He might not be T-Bar for much longer. So that ought to be interesting. So here's hoping that T-Bar is not T-Bar anymore. So that ought to be nice. All right, let's finally go over to the SmackDown side. So SmackDown's complete draft list was Roman Reigns, Charlotte Flair, Drew McIntyre, The New Day, Kofi Kingston and Xavier Woods, Happy Corbin and Madcap Moss, Hit Row, Naomi, Jeff Hardy, Aaliyah, Drew Gulak, Mace, Mansoor and Mustafa Ali, Tony Storm, The Usos, Sasha Banks, Shinsuke Nakamura and Rick Boogs, Sheamus, Shayna Baszler, Xia Li, The Viking Raiders, Ricochet, Angel Garza and Humberto Carrillo, Cesaro, Ridge Holland, Sami Zayn, Jinder Mahal, Shanky, Natalya, and Shotzi Blackheart. I definitely like SmackDown's draft a lot more than Raw. Raw has more names, but SmackDown has far more potential. Okay, there's some of these people here, man, who are just looking for an opportunity to break through. You know, there's a lot of people here who are very close or who have opportunities, which is a good thing. For somebody like Ridge Holland, Raw or SmackDown is fine, but he's got an opportunity on SmackDown. You know, these people are going to watch this show. I have a sneaking feeling he's going to end up being somebody's bodyguard. You know, he just seemed like the kind of guy they would put in a bodyguard role. The Viking Raiders, they needed a fresh coat of paint. Xia Li is a great addition. I like Xia Li. She's very small though, but she's like a small stick of dynamite. I think with the appropriate usage, she could be a real threat. I like the way she was, the Mortal Kombat thing she was doing in NXT. If they don't drop that, then, you know, she ought to be okay. Mansoor and Mustafa Ali, they both needed to be on SmackDown. SmackDown is the diversity show. And I'm going to say it till I'm blue in the face. SmackDown is probably the most diverse roster I've ever seen. Like, look at this roster. There's Arabs on here. There's 3 different Arabs. There's Mansoor, Mustafa Ali, and Aaliyah. There's 2 different Indians. Jinder Mahal and Shanky. Shotzi Blackheart is Filipino. You know, Sami Zayn is, I believe, an Arab. No, he's a Muslim. I don't know if he's an Arab or not. There's a lot of black people on this roster. Hit Row, New Day. There's all the Samoans. Well, 3 Samoans. Roman and the Usos. A Japanese guy, Shinsuke Nakamura. You know, this is Ricochet. You know, Humberto Garza and Humberto Carrillo and Angel Garza for the Hispanic market. Like, look at how diverse the SmackDown roster is. It's not even just a matter of black people and white people. There's like different shades of everybody in this joint. That's good because SmackDown is considered sort of not just a diversity show, but also the land of opportunity. The show where, you know, Eddie Guerrero can be the champion. The show where Jinder Mahal can get to the top. The show where, you know, they're not afraid to take risks. SmackDown is not afraid to take risks. And that's a good thing, you know. So it's a good thing for all of these talent who are on here. And sure, you're going to have the big Roman problem where you're going to have to issue getting over him. Of course, sure, but you don't have to get over Roman to be a star. You can be a star in your own right, in your own little corner of the roster. And SmackDown seems to be more interested in doing stuff with people and utilizing their roster and trying to bring out the best that they can. So I'm not upset that they brought in NXT talent like Xia Li and Ridge Holland and Hit Row or Aaliyah. Good. You know, because on Raw, it's 3 hours of nothing. Raw is some of the worst booked wrestling shows I've ever seen. Mace. Okay, so a lot of people like Mace. I forget what his name is, but a lot of people have liked him before he was Mace. And he seems like a nerdy black dude. And he seems like he might want to do some nerd stuff. And him and Xavier Woods been on the same brand. I think it encourages him to dive into his nerdiness. As far as I know, I think the guy named himself like some video game stuff. And he took the Retribution thing very seriously. And I will give him credit for that. Like, of all the people who took Retribution seriously, Mace and Mustafa Ali were the two guys who I think tried. They tried to make Retribution work. They really wanted it to work. Mustafa Ali, because obviously it was his opportunity to be the leader of something, to be the talker of something, to be the veteran. He is also the smallest guy in the group outside of Shane Thorne, who obviously has not been drafted. So maybe he's a free agent too. Who knows? Who cares? In any event, he's going to get an opportunity to see what he can do by himself. Okay, fine. Dio Madden, that was his name, Dio Madden. Mansoor and Mustafa Ali as a tag team ought to be fun. Humberto Carrillo and Angel Garza, I wanted them on SmackDown in the worst way. Ricochet too. It was just time, man. Raw was not going to focus on these guys. I think they got a chance. Do I think they're going to be, world champions and all that kind of stuff? I don't know, man. It's hard to go that far with people who, who just have been sitting in catering for so long. But when you see what SmackDown was able to do with a guy like Apollo Crews, where they was able to revitalize him. SmackDown is actually where Sheamus became, what he is now. It was because of the time he spent on SmackDown, doing the bar fight and everything with Jeff Hardy, man. Like, SmackDown creates these opportunities for these guys. It can work. They created what Big E is today. He's champion right now. So there's a good opportunity there. Shotzi Blackheart as a solo act is probably for the best. Tegan Nox is an absolute charisma vacuum. She is a charisma vacuum. Shotzi is awkward. She's very awkward. She's very weird. But her in-ring style will probably get people amped because she takes risks. And I'm pretty sure WWE is going to tell her not to do that stuff. Which may, end up being what holds her back. Is they're probably not going to be thrilled about pushing somebody who, like Sasha Banks likes to land on their head and all that kind of stuff. But if they let Shotzi loose, she should be big. She can be something. Her promo skills are not very strong though. Drew Gulak, there's a place for him on the roster. I'm not sure what it's doing. I think he's just going to take the Chad Gable spot of trying to be the mentor for somebody and maybe forming a tag team of some kind. That could be fun. So I see mostly potential with SmackDown. I don't see any breakthrough stars because of the Roman Reigns and the Charlotte Flair problem. That these people are just going to run roughshod over the roster for the next year. And the problem is the issue is going to be, can you be a good contender for Charlotte and Roman? Okay. We already know that Charlotte's going to spend the bulk of her time wrestling Sasha Banks from October 23rd forward. It's going to be Charlotte and Sasha 100 times throughout this. And then when Bayley shows up, it's going to be Charlotte and Bayley. So it's always going to be about, can Toni Storm get any time to work with Charlotte? As a matter of fact, I heard a rumor. And since we're talking about the Gable Steveson rumor, I heard this rumor that WWE hasn't been using Toni Storm because they wanted her to lose weight. They thought she was fat. Like, buddy, Toni Storm is built like a turkey. Like, she cannot hide that. She got sandbags in her pants. There is no way to hide that. Look, not everybody's going to be shaped like Tori Wilson, okay? Toni Storm is just fine. What the guy say? I think it's Bill Body said that they wanted her to lose 15 pounds. 15 pounds? Are you serious? With all that ass, she can lose 15 pounds and I won't notice it. She'd have to lose 30. She's fine. Okay. I think they just don't know what to do with her because, she was a sort of characterless woman. She was Tony Storm. She's hot. That's her gimmick. She's hot. But she needs to have something to inform her character, something to actually sit down and talk about. That's not Wild Child of the goddamn 80s. That's stupid. All right. But she needs to have something to fall back on. She needs to have a character. I don't think it has anything to do with her weight. When you look at her ass and thighs, look at Bailey's ass and thighs, for Christ's sake. Look at Naomi's ass and thighs, for Christ's sake. It's like fucking KFC around there with all the thighs and drumsticks. It's crazy. SmackDown is nuts with that shit. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you a horny wrestling fan and you horny in all the right ways, SmackDown is for you. It's thighs and drumsticks everywhere, buddy. It's biscuits and gravy all around that bitch. You feel me? In any event, dog, I don't buy it. I don't buy it. They want her to lose weight. I just think that she doesn't have a character. I think that's the same reason they haven't used Aaliyah yet. What is her character? She's a little Arab girl, or a little Arab woman. She's been in developmental forever, but it wasn't until like near the end of her run of NXT where she even had a character, and that was just being, quote, bougie, whatever that meant. She had something interesting with Vanessa Bourne, where that seemed to be going somewhere. And then Vanessa Bourne, I guess, sabotaged this whole thing by running her mouth. By her own admission, she was asking too many questions, and she was, getting on people's nerves, so they sent her home, and that's why she ended up getting fired. But she needs a character. And it seems to me that WWE has looked at people who have no character and basically sent them home. Aaliyah, Ricochet. Ricochet, same thing. What is Ricochet's character? You look at Ricochet's application that he sent to WWE when they asked him if he had any hobbies or interests. He said, I do flips. Yeah, go sit your dumb ass in catering until you figure out. Flip your ass into something that we can actually market. Right? Or flip your ass out of here. Garza and Carrillo. Look at what happened. Garza already had a character. So I don't see why they was, wasting time on him. Wasting his time. But when it came to Humberto Carrillo, they just wanted him to be fiery babyface. But now they have characters. The two most handsome men in the WWE. The Latin Lovers. Wait a minute. The Latin Lover isn't he related to them? No, that's Hector Garza. No, Hector Garza is the Latin Lover. No, he's not. Don't get me the line. Hector Garza and the Latin Lover are two different people. So, no. Okay. So I thought they might have been the same person, but I don't believe they are. I'm not Googling it either. So I'm just going to say they're not. And we're going to, if I'm wrong, correct me in the comment section. Sami Zayn should still be on SmackDown. I'm glad him and Kevin Owens were separated. There's something about them being together that I don't like. Shanky and Jinder Mahal are probably going to be used as a tag team. I like Jinder Mahal. I just always perfectly thought he was cool. But how he oscillates between being a job guy and being a main eventer, and being a job guy, being a main eventer, that is insane. How many times have that's such a rare thing though. Like, how often is it that you have a guy who you occasionally put a lot of effort in and push as a top guy? Not just once or twice, but several times. And then, you cut the legs from up under him and he's a job guy for a while. Like Kofi, not really. Kofi is consistently upper mid card. And then he'll go up to the main event and then he'll come right back down to mid card. But Jinder Mahal will go from not being on TV for weeks to being in a top storyline to not being on TV for weeks, then being in a mid-card storyline, then not being on TV for weeks, then being in the upper part. I've never seen this kind of trajectory on a career before. It's ridiculous. I've never seen any shit like this before. But he's there to mentor Shanky, who, to be quite honest, I don't see much in yet. I think Veer was the one that had the real talent. I think Shanky should have been used a lot like a Moss, where he should have been, or like Commander Aziz, where he was the big guy outside the ring that was really menacing. And they really killed his mystique with him begging off and being beat with chairs and all that kind of stuff. They pretty much tried to bury Shanky. They put him through the ringer. He's a big dude. Treat big dudes better. If you don't know what to do with him, put him outside the ring, give him some shades or something like that, turn him into a diesel. He doesn't have to do anything. He'll get over just by doing little things. The crazy stuff is that AEW did this completely by accident with Hook. And people think it doesn't work, but it works with Hook. Like, so many AEW fans are into Hook. And you have to ask yourself why. Like, why do they care about Hook? Because Hook doesn't do anything. He just kind of stands there and looks cool. Sometimes. And then when he does something, people are like, oh, he did a thing. I don't know what he did. He did it and it's cool. Like, that works. If you have the right people in the right places. Hook isn't quite Diesel or Amos or anything like that. I'm just using him as an example because it doesn't just have to be size. So this is what I see from the SmackDown side is I see a bunch of people who are blank slates. And the blank slateism on SmackDown will give them more room to do more things that are going to be more creative. So from looking at the SmackDown roster, you have Aaliyah, Mace, Xia Li, the Viking Raiders, Ricochet, Cesaro, Ridge Holland, Shanky, and Shotzi Blackheart, who are all essentially blank slates. And you can take those characters and do whatever you want with them. Because most people, even if they've seen them before, they've just seen their physical form. They haven't really sat down and heard them cut a promo yet. They haven't seen them do much of anything yet. There's still so much potential there. And I'm not one of these people who are just going to, that kind of, you have to be especially bad or especially boring for me to be like, you have absolutely nothing. I see nothing in you. Most people, you don't know what they have because you're looking at the entire package, the presentation, and then you're looking at the work. And you're kind of like, at most, keep working on it, At the least, you're the shits. And that's why sometimes I'll say somebody is absolute shits because I've seen enough of them. And they've been in different, like Brian Cage, who I strongly dislike. I've seen Brian Cage in 3 or 4 different promotions. He's the same in every one. He's awful, right? It doesn't matter what the presentation is at that point. Sometimes it's the presentation. Sometimes you see somebody in their, in their jobber stage or in their larval stage when they're not really doing much of anything. You don't know who they are. And it's difficult to project into the future. If you're Eric Bischoff and you walk into the locker room in WCW and you see stunning Steve Austin, you're like, okay, what's so special about this guy? He's funny, but there's nothing special about him. You put him out there, people like, okay, I like him. I like when he works. He gets out there, he gets a good reaction, he gets his match over. But what can he say in promos? What can he really do in the matches? What stories are he telling? What is all this? And then you don't see anything, and you cut him, you release him. And then he goes somewhere else where the presentation changes, his look changes, his attitude changes. Now he's got something to say, and all of a sudden he's the biggest wrestling star of all time. It happens. So I don't want to be the guy who says, oh, he's going to be the biggest star of all time. He ends up being a bust. That happens to people all the time. I want to hope the best for most people. But sometimes you have to say, you can be a good sized star. Like, I was one of the few people who thought that The Miz was going to be a star. I wish I had my channel back then. But a lot of people, like in 2006, were saying The Miz was horrible. And he was bad. It was all about giving him time. They gave him time, and just a year or two later, he was actually not that bad. As far as the promo is concerned, like he was still not that great as a wrestler. But he had started to find the character. He started finding his voice. And it just took him a while. He had to stand there and work with it. Unfortunately, the WWE of today isn't the WWE of 2008. You could have gotten some time then in order to build up and get over. Now, with this catering culture that they've created, where if you're not over in 2 weeks, they send you to catering, and you just sit there for months on end. No wonder guys quit. I heard that Lucha House Party quit. Not like anybody's going to miss them. I love Grand Metalik, but it's not like anybody's going to miss them. But, WWE's created this catering culture where they just sit people in catering all day. You wasting everybody's time. And I 100% support people who have been sitting in catering for 100 days, not even doing jobs, not doing anything. Yeah, I'd quit too. But there are other opportunities there. If you get sent home, hey, go work on your look, work on your character, work on your presentation, try to do something different, man. Bring them something different. When next time they call you, have your look like Humberto, right? Humberto Carrillo. He came back and he was in great shape when he came back one time. He was cut, like he looked really good, and that led to him being on TV more. And to be quite honest, I think maybe this tag team is kind of a reward. I know all the matches with Sheamus and everything was basically a reward for him getting in some really good shape. Same thing with Jinder Mahal. When he got fired, he left. He got in really good shape. He came back, got pushed. Shinsuke Nakamura, they put him in the bodysuit for a little while, and then he magically showed up in shape one time, like he actually stopped surfing. Now he's the Intercontinental Champion. So it's a lot of potential on the SmackDown side. They kind of robbed SmackDown of some of the stars, which is what they usually do. But they use SmackDown to bring in some Raw talent from NXT. Not Raw talent from Raw, but Raw talent from NXT. People that, have some size to them or might have some charisma to them. You just need to flesh it out. And I don't mind that for a draft class. That's actually what a draft class is supposed to be. When you as a GM for a coach or whatever, and you picking draft players, you don't know how they're going to play in your league. You're looking at the potential from what they did in the NCAA or whatever, right? Same thing here. We're looking at what Hit Row or Xia Li or Ridge Holland or what Shotzi was able to do in NXT. And we say there might be a place for them on our team. And you know what? That's a good thing. As opposed to trying to find diamonds because there's going to be very few of those. There's very, very few of the Brian Breakers of the world where, it's almost a can't miss. He has to actually do something to actively fuck it up, to be quite honest. There's very few of guys like him. Guys like Cena, guys like Roman, where you have to actively do really, really, really bad things for them to screw it up. Most of these people just need a consistent presentation and consistent push and a consistent opportunity. And I think that they can do it. So I'm looking at the SmackDown roster. It's definitely weaker, as far as they have, but they still have set up perfectly for Roman and Charlotte. As far as fresh matchups, Charlotte's never wrestled some of the people that's on this roster before. Charlotte has never wrestled Toni Storm, to my knowledge. She's never wrestled Xia Li. She's never wrestled, she has wrestled Natalya to death. She hasn't wrestled Shotzi. And if you do, she hasn't wrestled Aaliyah. So if you take time to actually put effort into these characters, which will be the old school way of doing things, even if it was just you push Aaliyah for a month so that she seems like a credible contender and then she wrestles Charlotte and loses, that's 1 month out of 12 months. Then you're going to, maybe the overarching storyline is going to be her and Sasha or her and the returning Bayley or something like that. But she has plenty of opponents on this roster. And, of course, you can always bring up more people. Nothing stops you from doing that. And that could be set up fine. With Roman, you have a similar thing where you have the immediate opponent, which is Drew McIntyre, but I think that's going to be your overarching opponent. I think in between that, you got Jeff Hardy, who he's going to need to be rebuilt because they've done a great job of jobbing him out on Raw. And nobody takes him seriously as a main event guy right now. So the same with, I guess, Kofi Kingston will be another one. You could also use him as a top guy. And that made me make people groan, but it's true. You also have Sheamus. If you wanted to babyface Sheamus, that's a good option there. So you got some stuff to do. For the Usos, you do got tag teams for them to wrestle. They've never wrestled Mustafa Ali and Mansoor, to my knowledge. Angel Garza and Alberto Carrillo, those are new opponents for them. So they Shanky and Jinder Mahal. So you have some people to work with immediately while you are building other talent. But you just have to build that talent. If you're going to be in some shit where you're just going to beat people night one on the show, this is not going to last. It's going to get boring really fast. But I think it's going to be a while before some of these characters even get really introduced. I don't see, the 23rd All Actually you see everybody on the show. They've got 2 or 3 weeks to finish some plot lines with some hanging plot lines, like Charlotte being the champion, like what happened to the top rope, like Hit Row having the North American title in NXT. There are still some things that they have to get over. There's some plot lines that they have to finish, if they dare to even finish them, which they probably won't. But I'm just saying, they have time to fix those problems if that's things that they want to do. So they have contenders. They have the big overarching contenders. They have a couple of smaller contenders. So they got some stuff there. They also have a lot of potential that they can send guys to the drawing board. Hey, come up with this character. Come do this. Come do that. And we got a little bit of that going there too with the potential characters. And it's just a lot. But Raw wins on name value. Like if you was to say, give me which roster won the draft. Well, Raw won. They got Edge. they got Lashley. They got Seth. They got Finn Balor. They got bigger names on Raw, but they have potential on SmackDown. And sometimes potential can be better. I think that SmackDown has a more exciting roster, to be quite honest. And I'm actually far more interested in what the SmackDown roster is going to do, because I've seen Kevin Owens already. I've seen, a lot of these guys. Austin Theory is an exciting new talent on Raw, but he was on Raw last year, and he was Seth Rollins' follower, and then it didn't last. So and also I'm just not, because Raw's booking is the shits, and that's another thing that's not helping matters. But let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Like this video, share this video, subscribe to the channel, donate to the channel. Thank you guys for your time, man, and I'll talk to you guys later.